Hello everyone, welcome to Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. I am Dr. K. Anita, Assistant Professor, Department of Journalism and Mass Communications, Osmania University. In today's topic, we are going to discuss about evolution and barriers of communication. Let's get started. As we discussed, communication plays a very important role in our daily life. But we need to know when did it start, how did it all start, how did the communication process in the world has actually started. So when we go back, look at the olden days, we have something called like cave painting. One of the humanity's oldest way of communicating. Cave paintings were very famous when long back, and in India cave painting stretch across an enormous timeline from as early as 30,000 BC to as late as 10th century AD. That's over 40,000 years of artistic expression. So the most famous sites at the that we are very famously known is Bhimbetak Rocks Shelter in central India, followed by magnificent Ajanta and Ellora caves in Maharashtra. Now here is what makes Ajanta special. The artists used a technique called fresco. They painted on wet plates. As the platters dried, the color became permanently fixed to the wall. This is why these paintings have survived over 1500 years. The artists were incredibly skilled, and that's how they stored the communication from that time to today. We also see today certain excavations are conducted and then we see they are coming out. So there we will find these things available. So these all are stored by the government of India or by the people working in the archaeology department, and they provide us and put for exhibitions whenever it is required. Coming to the evolution of communication, now look at other three ways where ancient Indians communicated. It is starting with the rock pillars. So around 269 BC, Emperor Ashoka of the Mauryan dynasty carved 33 inscriptions on pillars, boulders and cave walls across India like Nepal, Pakistan, Bangladesh. These are called the edicts of Ashoka. They spread Buddhism and taught moral principles like dharma, non-violence and animal welfare. Ashoka called himself beloved of the gods in these writings. Next comes the palm and leaf manuscripts. These were one of the oldest writing materials in India, especially in the southern. They spread across the Nepal, Sri Lanka, Burma, Thailand and Indonesia. This is how the olden communication has actually taken place. But you should understand, look at it in such a way that these were the skill oriented things. Writing on rocks, carving on the rocks as well as palm leaves, all these are something which is very skilled oriented things. But modern day communication, where did it start? It all started with the oral communication. So though it is a final point, but oral communication is beginning for today's modern communication also. This is the most important one. So oral communication in India is very popular. Why? Because the lot of the population in India cannot write and read. So writing communication was never widely used because of the illiteracy that was existing. So because of writing on palm leaves and difficult in printing came later, very late. So printing technology also came after 19th century. But prior to that, what is the means of communication? It is with the oral communication. So how did Indians preserve their greatest heritage? It is through speech and word. Oral communication has become the oldest and the most important form of communication in today's human society also. Earlier humans first used gestures, sounds and sensory signals, and later developed structured languages. So in India, oral communication remained strong due to the limited use of writing and slow spread of printing technology also. It helped preserve the culture as well, tradition, heritage through generations, and that's how oral communication plays a very key role. Now we will talk about barriers to communication. Now why barriers to communication? Communication can be only effective if it is done in a proper way. There may be certain obstacles in the process of communication, and in that process of communication, if you have obstacles, they are called as something like noise. There is noise and there are different types of noise in that. There are different types of barriers that are existing and identified by the authors. And then autonomous communication system and steps, there are various steps to remove these barriers also. Let us try to discuss all of them. Now when we talk about a barrier, barrier as it word means is obstacle, the way while you are communicating. So it can block, distort, completely stop the message from reaching from one person to another person. If you take an example of a business communication, you have a huge number of people working in an organization. The size of an organization can be an obstacle at times. The distance between the lower level officer to the higher level officer can also be an obstacle at times. And the specialization of a jobs also, certain roles or certain director level people won't meet anybody at any point of time. That also is a barrier for communication. And sometimes power and status also can also be an obstacle for communication. So these are the various factors that are hurdles for communication. So they are called as a barriers. Out of all this, the major thing is the noise. Noise has different types as per described by Shannon and Weaver in their communication model for the first time about the noise. It is a barrier in the process of communication. But how can it create a barrier? There are various types in noise also. One is physical noise. While you are talking to somebody or while you are studying seriously or you are watching a TV, there is a noise outside your house happening that is disturbing your hearing level. So that is a noise. Now psychological and impartial noise, which is your body, like you are ready to listen, there is no outside noise, but your health is not good, you are getting an headache or you are not feeling like listening or you are feeling sleepy. So which is like impairment noise, which is also psychological impairment noise. And there is something called semiotic noise, where there is various words which have a different meanings. In English you find such number of words which have a two meanings, where you are supposed to be using them properly, you must use this, otherwise your person or the receiver get disturbed. Then comes syntactic noise, where grammar is wrongly used, where is has to be used, where are has to be used, has to be properly used. If you don't use the grammar properly, your English becomes bad and people won't be able to follow you or understand you. And then comes the organizational and cultural noise. Cultural noise is something like, in India we have different cultures, different states, each of them follow different cultures. So from place to place you have a lot of different people, and you may not be able to eat the food that is there in the northern side, or people from north cannot be able to eat the food in the southern side and the culture in the southern side. So that also is a barrier. So, and the most important and highly possible kind of a noise is a psychological noise. People won't be able to understand certain concepts because of their psychological attitude. They are maybe not willing to listen to you, or they may be in some other context while you're talking. So all these are different types of noises. So physical barriers and mechanical barriers also available. Mechanical barriers are nothing but a machine creating. Sometimes you may not have a signals while you are calling somebody, you may not be able to reach out to them, or your phone is not working, or if there is a huge rain in some of the parts of India, we don't get internet or the network signals also. So all these are the different types of barriers that are famously known and available. But autonomous communication system in India, barriers take a unique form. Like Indian society is not a single mass society like in the Western countries. You have different cultures, as I told you. There are different newspapers, radio, TV, mostly oriented towards the elite. But what about the traditions, how they have to be taken? And in India, to communicate, you need to know different types of languages, as we have different kind of people. So the point of view has to be made more clear. Whatever you talk in Tamil or any other language, a person coming from a Telugu background may not be able to understand until unless they don't know the Telugu language or a Tamil language. So language is another important barriers. Apart from that, you have other barriers like illiteracy. If they are not well educated and you give an English copy to talk to them or read them, they won't be able to. Similarly, when you talk about socio-cultural economic conditions, high level people who are with the business, they won't be able to understand the poor level people and their struggles, like audience problems, individual problems, distance problems, as well as interpersonal barriers also. Then we talk about attitudes. People sometimes are reluctant to listen to you, take anything from you, close-minded behavior. They don't want it to listen. Like this, there are so many types of barriers. But the most important thing is barriers in communication are common, but you need to remove the barriers. How can you remove? You need to understand. First thing is prepare properly, analyze your information properly, then analyze the resources properly. Try to be very creative with your and objectives need to be very clear. plan your action and do not stop there. Try to communicate in a proper way. Speak to yourself and try to speak to the target audience constantly where you are lacking and how can you bring back them into the conversation. So, like this, we try to learn today about various aspects related to communication, starting with how did communication start from the olden days till today, and how oral communication has played a key role. And when oral communication is playing a key role, what are the barriers that we have seen, like noise, physical, psychological, cultural, which affect the reality and affect your communication. So, socio-economic and cultural barriers significantly affect the how messages are absorbed. Plan with your audience reality in life. So, like this, you have to plan your communication properly so that you will not lose your target group. Thank you so much.